Hey team, Yasin here, and in this training, we're going to be going over ad copy and copywriting, all about what it is, why it's important, and exactly how you're going to be able to use it in order to actually maximize your advertising. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And the very first question that we're going to go ahead and talk about is ad copy foundations. Okay, so what's going to happen is that inside of this training section, we're going to be breaking down literally the ins and outs of what copywriting actually is. And then this training section is really going to provide you the foundational understanding that is going to serve you for the rest of your entire career on what is arguably, if not inarguably, the most important skill when it comes to both business and life, period. And what is that most important skill? That most important skill is copywriting. Okay, so as we kind of talk about this concept of copywriting, the first question you might have is like, okay, well, what is copywriting, right? Or what is copy? What is sales copy? And so to really explain to you what sales copy is and what copywriting is, I want to go ahead and share with you a little bit of a funny mini story about Bobby and how Bobby learns copywriting. So who is Bobby? Well, Bobby is a coach. Okay, you see here, right here, this is Bobby. Bobby says hi. Okay, so Bobby is a coach. And what Bobby does is that Bobby writes 10 emails per day. And what he does is he sends those emails to important people to try and get them to open those emails and read those emails so that way they will actually use his coaching services. Okay, now what Bobby does is that he writes 10 emails per day over and over and over again. And the reason why he's really sad over here right now is because barely anybody actually responds, unfortunately, to his emails. Now, just to give you an example of what Bobby's emails actually look like, here's an example of the type of emails that he is sending. Okay, so he is sending this email over to mrmoneybags@gmail.com. Okay, and the subject line that Bobby is sending this email with is he says, "Hey, give me money." And so then what he says is he says, "Dear Mr. Moneybags, I really want money from you. Please buy my products. Our products are so good, and we are dedicated to strong customer support loyalty, and we recognize the importance of customer care, and we are happy to help you implement what you need in your life to improve. Sincerely, Bobby." Okay, so this is the email that he's sending. Okay, and you can see here he doesn't even put like the sentences on different lines. It's just massive one paragraph. Okay, now guess what? To Mr. Moneybags, when Mr. Moneybags opens up this email, right here's Mr. Moneybags right over here. Mr. Moneybags opens up this email and says, "Hey, this email is a huge waste of my time." Okay, this email is so absolutely boring for me. Why? Because Bobby is writing the email and it's completely about Bobby, right? All that is inside of the email, I'm going to go ahead and scroll up here and show you again. All that is inside of the email is ask, 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 right? It's just taking from Mr. Moneybags, right? It has nothing for Mr. Moneybags. It has nothing that's going to help Mr. Moneybags, right? It's just not written in a way that is even interesting or helpful to Mr. Moneybags in any way, shape, or form. And so as a result of that, Mr. Moneybags, all he does is he just gets annoyed and he just doesn't respond. And again, this is the problem that Bobby has, right? This is the reason why Bobby is so very sad, is because he's sending out these emails and he's not getting anybody to respond. He's not getting really anybody to open them. And then on top of that, of course, if nobody's reading the emails, if nobody's opening them, if nobody wants to work with him, he's not getting any clients, okay? But then here's the thing. One day, something changes for Bobby, okay? Bobby discovers that there's this thing that is called the art and science of something called copywriting, okay? And then once he learns that there's this thing called copywriting, what Bobby starts to do is he starts to furiously study how to be able to write great copy, okay? He reads all of the amazing resources, he tries and he practices, right? He starts to acquire the skill of copywriting, how to be able to write great copy, right? He reads the Boron letters, he reads David Ogilvy's book, he reads scientific advertising, he reads great leads, he learns all about advertising secrets. And so Bobby learns about copywriting is really all about getting the person that you are speaking to get them to actually want to engage with you, right? It's not about spamming them with offers. Bobby learns that copywriting is all about generously giving something valuable to the person and not just greedily asking for stuff all the time, right? He learns that copywriting is all about getting the person that you're talking to actually want to not only engage with you, but also buy from you, right? Not out of pressure, but because of the fact that the content that you were delivering, the stuff that you were talking to them about was actually helpful, right? It's about writing in a way that is clear and easy to read based on the pain and the paradise of the people. This is all of the things that Bobby learns that copywriting is actually about. Okay, so now that Bobby knows that this is what copywriting is about, Bobby actually does a better job of revamping his email to Mr. Moneybags. Okay, so now the subject line reads, "Unlock your potential, exclusive secrets inside." And he says, "Hey, Mr. Moneybags, are you ready to break through your limits and achieve your dreams? If so, I have an exciting offer for you." Okay, my name is Bobby, and I'm a certified results coach dedicated to helping people like you unlock their full potential and get the results they want in their life. Let me share with you a secret. The key to achieving lasting change and success in your life is not about external factors, but rather about developing the right mindset and habits. I've attached this free guide for you in this email that's going to show you step by step how to be able to get, and then he fills in Mr. Moneybags' result there, right? I've also gone ahead and linked for you the top 3 things that you can start to do ASAP today to get closer to what you want. And if you would like more tips and recommendations, email me back the word results. Now, don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to transform your life and achieve the results you've always wanted. Remember, you have the power to change your life, and with my coaching program, you'll have the tools to support it to make it happen. Looking forward to helping you unlock your potential. Now, of course, this is just an example of the email that Bobby has tweaked, right? Obviously, it's going to get better and better and better, but you're going to start to see how Bobby has now radically revamped and transformed the previous letter that he was writing, and he's now gone ahead and started to implement some of the things that are the fundamentals of great copywriting. Right now, when Mr. Moneybags actually sees this email, Mr. Moneybags says, "Wow, more awesome recommendations that can help me in my life? Yes, please." And now Mr. Moneybags is actually really excited and engaging with Bobby and the emails that Bobby is writing. And guess what? Because of the fact that Mr. Moneybags is engaging with Bobby in the messaging that he's putting out there, now Mr. Moneybags is actually interested in becoming a client with Bobby, okay? So now that Bobby is actually writing and using copywriting to send out his emails, he is getting so much of a better response, and he's sending out great copy that actually engages and hooks the reader and actually makes them want to read his emails. They make him want to actually be a customer or a client of Bobby, right? And so now when Bobby sends out, let's say 10 emails to 10 different people, he gets way more people actually responding to him. And then guess what happens? As a result of that, sales start to go up dramatically for Bobby, right? And literally the only thing that Bobby changed, he didn't change his product, he didn't change anything else, right? All he did was change his copy. All he did was learn the art and science, the skill of copywriting. And so that, my friend, that kind of breaking frame and talking to you now as the member of 100K Mastermind, that is the power of copywriting. Pretty cool, right? And so this is the reason why we wanted to go over this example of Bobby and Mr. Moneybags, is because we once came across this example and it was really impactful for us to be able to understand the result of what copywriting actually does. And it kind of hints a little bit, once you go through this example, it hints a little bit of what copy actually is. But really the next topic we want to talk about inside of this foundational training is, well, what is copy, right? So now that you have a little bit of a gist of like, okay, it has something to do with like words, and it has something to do with like influence and persuasion, and like actually getting people to want to engage with you. But what is copy actually? Okay, so let's go ahead and actually define it, all right? So sales copywriting is anything that is intended to persuade the right reader, viewer, or listener to take a specific action, okay? Now, the thing is that we want you as a student to be educated and informed about when people refer to this topic of copywriting, they oftentimes use other words as well. So we don't want you to be confused, okay? So here's the thing. The word copywriting, or the topic of copywriting, can also sometimes be referred to as copy for short, okay? Or sales copy, or ad copy, or sometimes you'll hear other names as well. But again, do not be confused. It's all the same topic, which is the topic of copywriting, okay? So copywriting is really just about using words, right? Arranging those words, writing those words down in interesting and persuasive different combinations that get people to take some sort of action, okay? So if someone says, hey, you know what? I want to get good at copywriting, what they're saying is, you know what? I want to get good at influencing and persuading people to take action using words. Are you starting to see how powerful this actually is? Like how fundamental to both business and life this actually is, right? This is what we talk about when we talk about copywriting. If you want to get good at influencing and persuading people to take action using words, then guess what? You're talking about copywriting. And so we've talked about this in the past, right? When you learn how to be able to write well, you learn how to be able to think well. A very common characteristic of winners, right, of A players, is that they are concise and clear in their language and in their writing. And that means that they are concise and clear in their thinking. When you learn how to be able to write clearly, it means that you learn how to be able to think clearly, and vice versa, right? When you learn how to think clearly, you learn how to be able to write clearly, okay? Now, here's the thing. Copywriting isn't just about writing, all right? It's not just writing. It's a very specific type of writing, right? Copywriting is really the applied version of influence, persuasion, and communication, which also relates to sales and coaching, right? A good copywriter is not just a normal writer, okay? They are a student of human psychology and the reason behind why people, humans, make decisions about anything in life. That is what a good copywriter is. They are a student of human psychology, okay? Now, what is copy used for? Now, again, remember here, we're using a different word for copywriting, same exact topic, okay, is copy. What is copy used for? If you've ever written any business or marketing content in order to persuade or convince someone to do something, guess what? That's copy. If you've ever posted on social media about your business or about the offer that you have, that's copy. Maybe you haven't done these things, but maybe you have been interested in doing those things. Well, guess what? That's copy, right? If you've ever tried to have a section on your website, or if you are going to in the future have a section on your website that asks people to sign up or fill out an application or download something, that's copy, right? If you're going to send an email to your customers or to your prospects or to people who are interested in your product, that's copywriting, okay? If you're ever going to write a tagline for your business, a sales page, a lead magnet, anything to promote your business, that's copywriting. And that's just a few of the examples of what copy actually is, right? You've probably already even attempted to write copy in the past, but you just didn't know that you were actually doing copy, writing copy, right? And here's the crazy thing about this. Copywriting is not only for business or sales. In fact, copywriting is actually critical in every area of life, okay? Literally the number of things that copy is used for is literally endless in both business and in life. In fact, let's go ahead and talk about that right now. And let's go ahead and talk about exactly why copywriting is so important, okay? Remember, this is a foundational training in which we're really breaking down the topic of copywriting and really cementing in your mind why copywriting is so absolutely important and so absolutely critical for both business and in life, okay? And so here's the thing. I want you to listen to this very, very, very carefully, okay? Copywriting is literally the most valuable skill that you will ever learn, period, okay? Because the number of things that copy can be used for in business and life, as we said, is literally endless, okay? Literally, copywriting is the applied version of influence and persuasion and communication. But most people just don't understand how big of a deal that is, right? We say these things, but people say, oh yeah, it just goes through one ear and goes out the other. But here's the thing. If you know how to be able to persuade people using words, okay? Now, words in any format, that could be written words, in images, in videos, literally that is the most important skill, period. If you are a good copywriter, then what that means is that you understand what motivates people, and that means that you can then create products that people want, and you can get them to actually purchase those products, all just using the words that you communicate. And so to just show you a couple examples of what copy is used for in both business and in life, let's go ahead and go through a couple different examples. So if you have ever, or if you are going to ever want to persuade someone to go on a date with you, guess what? You're going to be using copy. If you want to get customers, you're going to use copy. If you want to be able to recruit people to work for you, you're going to use copy. When you want to convince your parents to allow you to get a dog, use copy. When you want to convince your friends and family to go to your favorite restaurant, use copy. When you want to sell people on an interesting idea that you have, whether that is in business or in life, use copy. When you want to go out there and make money, guess what? Use copy. When you want to be able to go ahead and sell yourself, here's an interesting. When you want to go ahead and sell yourself in order to why going to bed on time is important, use copy. When you want to convince your kids to actually listen to you, use copy, right? If you are looking to use words in any format to get people to do what it is that you want them to do, what you're going to be using is you're going to be using copy. You're going to be using the fundamental principles of copywriting. And so literally every aspect of life uses copy, and it can literally be applied to anything. Are you starting to understand when we say that copywriting is an amazing skill? Yes, I know right now we're talking about it in the context of being able to create your ad copy, right? Of course, that's the context that we're talking about it in. But the reason why it's so foundational for you to be able to understand why copy is important in all areas of life is because that way in your mind, you can expand the importance of copy from just being about ad copy. It's like, oh, I do that thing for ad copy. Yeah, that's all I use it for. No, the better you get at using copy in your life, period, across the board, the better you are going to be able to get at even making your ad copy, because you understand that you are a student of psychology and why people actually make decisions, okay? And then when it comes to business, right? When it comes to business, you're using copywriting, also known as sales copywriting, specifically on many different things, right? Your sales videos, right? Your educational videos, your internal trainings, your podcast scripts, your public speeches, your webinar scripts, your emails that are going to be being sent out by salespeople, right? Emails for new customers, emails that are going to be going in your autoresponder campaign, all of those, even sales scripts, right? Phone scripts, all of that. The list goes on and on and on in terms of how copy is going to actually be used inside of your business as well. Now, later on inside of one of the training sections, we're going to talk about how to actually learn copy, right? But right now, like we said, we want to embed this idea deep in your mind as to what copy is and why it's so important. Because if you are good at copywriting, listen to this very carefully. If you are good at copywriting, until the day that you die, you will always make money. It's literally that insanely useful for both business and for life. And to further demonstrate the power of good copywriting, what I want to go ahead and emphasize for you and show you an example of is that when you understand how important copywriting is that specifically in business, what you start to realize is that each and every single piece of copy that you write when it comes to business kind of acts like a mini salesperson for your business, okay? What happens is that you basically have to write the copy once, and then basically you have this salesperson that is trained to do the job perfectly every single time. Why? Because you can spend as much time as you want to be able to get the copy perfect. And then once it's written, once it shows that it's once it's good enough, what happens is that you just go ahead and put it out there into the world. And the beautiful thing about copy, unlike a real life salesperson, a real life salesperson gets tired. A real life salesperson can maybe not be in the best mood. And then all of a sudden they mess up. And even though they might be trained, they might actually mess up, right? But the thing with copy is that it always stays exactly the same way that you wrote it. And it can continue to bring in new leads and new customers and new sales into your business like clockwork every single time, right? So here's an example, right? This is an example of an ad copy. There's many types of copy, right? Like we've talked about, but here's an example of an ad copy. Now, the colors you're going to learn represent different parts of the copy, but obviously we have the headline and the hook over here. Then we have the main body copy on here, right? So you can read all this. You can pause and read this. And just as an example showing you this, right? And then after that, you have your call to action at the end of it. So once you have this copy written and you put it out there into the world, it can be shown to literally hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, and it literally becomes an asset that can work on bringing you new leads and new customers and new sales into your business over and over and over again. And again, unlike traditional sales, which are normally done one-on-one, a single piece of copy that might be posted on social media, it might be posted in email, it might be thrown into an ad, it can literally be shown to millions and millions and millions of people. This is the power of good copy, especially when applied in the business context, okay? The profit potential for the right piece of copy that actually converts, if shown to enough people, is literally insanely massive. And that is the power of good copywriting when it comes to applied in the business context. Now, when it comes to actually copywriting and it comes to understanding copywriting, what happens at this point is that a lot of students who are maybe beginners in this understanding of copywriting start to have a question, say, hey, okay, so that means that I need to be a good writer in order to actually make amazing copy, right? And here's the problem with this. This is the point where some newbie beginner students start to go limbic. Why? Because this is the point where they've now gone from unconscious incompetence, right? A lot of you, before this specific training, didn't even know what copywriting was. You didn't even know that copywriting even existed. And so you were unconscious about your incompetence when it came to copywriting. But now that you're actually starting to increase your knowledge about copywriting, you're learning about what copywriting actually is, you're starting to become conscious of your incompetence. And guess what happens when you start to become conscious of your incompetence? You start to be able to have emotions, you start to have feelings, you start to have doubts, you start to have fears, you start to go into the valley of despair because you now realize how much of a deficit there is between what it is that you have been doing in the past or what it is that you want to do, which is write amazing copy, and your current skill set. So now all of a sudden that you know of the fact that there's this thing called copy and that it exists, you now realize how deficient you actually are. And so now all of a sudden, your own mind becomes your worst enemy because all of those limiting beliefs start to come to the surface, right? Limiting beliefs like, hey, I can't write my own copy. Hey, I've never been trained to actually write correctly. Hey, I didn't do that well in English class. Hey, you know what? I didn't do that well in school or in college. Hey, I don't have that formal ability. I'm not a writer. Oh man, look at those identity statements coming out, right? And so many other limiting and false beliefs start to come out once we enter that valley of despair, of conscious incompetence. But here's the thing, and here's the truth. Some of the best copy on the planet, right? Copy that is either read or written, it's actually informal, it's actually fun, and it's actually engaging. In fact, there have literally been so many split test studies that have shown that copy that's written at a third grade reading level actually outperforms copy that's written at a college level. Why? Because people love to be able to consume information that is easy to consume, that is simple, and it gets the point across. And so here's the thing. Even if right now you might have these identity statements and these false beliefs and these limiting beliefs, even though you have never maybe formally learned how to write copy and now all of a sudden you're judging yourself, I would urge you to put that to the side for 1 second, because the truth is that if you can write at an easy to read third grade level, then guess what? You can write copy. In fact, as you're going to see when we talk about the marketplace swipe file ad copy training, when you are stuck with copy, the reason why it's so easy to write copy and the reason why copywriting, once you get the foundational principles, is so easy and is absolutely a skill that you can learn is because literally you can just copy, you can duplicate, you can just mimic somebody else's copy from your swipe file and use it as inspiration, and all you got to do is just make simple tweaks to it. And so you're going to learn and start to see, hey, I don't have to be a world-class novelist, right? I don't have to be able to write an entire book like Stephen King, who literally writes for a living, in order to actually write copy. I can be just a Joe Schmo. I can be anybody. Literally anybody can learn the skill of copywriting. All you need is just practice, okay? When you start out, you get a little bit of knowledge, and then all of a sudden you got to get a lot of reps, but that is how you're going to be able to get past that point of conscious incompetence. And literally anybody who thinks other than that, anybody who judges themselves and thinks that they cannot learn copy, well, all they're doing is they're being a limbic laloo who's wearing the failure uniform, right? We talk about, hey, being a newbie and being nervous is fine, but don't be a limbic laloo who wears a failure uniform. Instead, be a winner. Be somebody who has a winner's mindset. Be an A player. Be somebody who has that mindset, who can actually thrive and not just survive. And so that's the reason why we wanted to go ahead and talk about that limiting belief aspect when it comes to copywriting, specifically inside of this training about the copywriting foundations. It's so important to put aside those identity statements, put aside those limiting beliefs that you might have when it comes to copywriting. Deal? Makes sense? I hope so. Very, 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 very important. Don't worry, you're going to absolutely crush this. You're going to do amazing at it if you put in the work and actually get the knowledge and the reps for this. Beautiful. Now, to really go ahead and close out this training here, we're going to go ahead and talk about what copywriting is not. Okay, so we've talked about what copywriting is. Now, a very good way to understand abstract concepts, to be able to define anything, is that the human mind always works by understanding the opposite, right? In order to understand what light is, you have to understand what darkness is, right? It's very useful when you're understanding concepts to learn the inverse of that concept. So let's go ahead and talk about what copywriting is not. And specifically, I want to talk to you about how copywriting is not copywriting. Okay, I'll talk to you about that in a second. And copywriting is not content writing. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about that first one, is that copywriting is not copywriting. Now, if someone is just listening to this, right, just the audio version of this, and not actually able to see the spelling difference between copywriting and copywriting, it would be absolutely hilarious, because I'm literally saying copywriting is not copywriting. It sounds exactly the same thing, right? But you read that right? Copywriting is not copywriting. So copywriting, the one that actually has the word writing in it, WRITING, is when you're creating copy in order to get people to take action, okay? Versus copywriting, right? So copywriting without the W is all of that legal protection stuff. And so copyright is the legal protection of intellectual property that protects the original works of authors and creators who made them, okay? And usually that is that symbol, that is the C symbol that is there, that represents copyright, okay? So copyright, all rights reserved. And in fact, just to show you how much of a newbie, just to show you how much of a beginner I was, and how much of a beginner us as coaches were, when I was starting out in this field of like copywriting and learning copywriting and influence and persuasion, I thought when somebody said, hey, I got to learn copywriting, I thought that they were actually talking about like, hey, they got to learn about that legal, like copyright, all rights reserved stuff, okay? So just to show you, literally, everybody starts at zero. When we were born, we didn't know what copywriting was. We didn't know any of this. And that's why it's absolutely a skill that you can learn. So that's the first thing that you want to understand, is that copywriting is not copywriting without the W, right? That's the first thing that you want to understand. They're two totally different concepts, not to be confused together, okay? That's number one. Number two we want to talk about next is that copywriting is not content writing, okay? So content writing is something that's different. So a lot of people get this confused, is that content writing is that when you're creating content to put out there that's going to be valuable, right? Think about like social media posts and that kind of stuff, right? So content writing is all about brand awareness, organic and educational stuff, right? Versus copywriting, it's more about being one directional, singular, and has a call to action. And so let's go ahead right now and actually talk about the difference between copywriting and content writing on three major points: purpose, direction, and goal. So let's go ahead and talk about purpose first, okay? So the purpose of copywriting, as you've now learned, is to really go ahead and help the person who is consuming the writing, right, or the video or the listener or whatever, to take an action, right? We've learned this already. That's exactly what this entire training section was about, right? So the intention is to get someone to take an action, usually immediately, in some trackable way. So examples of that, as we've already learned, is like a webinar script, a sales letter, a video sales letter, a Facebook ad, a phone script, something like that, right? That's like copywriting, okay? Content writing, on the other hand, the purpose of content writing is all about engagement, okay? The intention is to build relationships, and you're willing to build that relationship over a longer period of time. So copywriting is more about, hey, immediately taking some sort of action, versus content writing has a longer time horizon in which it's more about doing it over a longer period of time. So think of things like blog posts, videos, Instagram posts, images, graphics. Those are things that are usually going to be around content writing and not so much about copywriting, okay? So two different concepts that are important for you to be able to understand, okay? The next kind of thing that we want to talk about in terms of the difference between copywriting and content writing is the direction, okay? So in copywriting, the direction is very one directional. It's very linear. It's very strategic. It's very intentional, okay? It literally ends with a call to action. So imagine if you're writing, let's say, for example, a email that is meant to be a copywriting email. It's going to be very, very one directional. At the end of it, there's going to be a CTA, a call to action. That is what we're talking about when we talk about copywriting, right? Each sentence in copywriting is meant to hook the person in a way that entices them to read the very next sentence. Literally, it's all about sentence by sentence by sentence by sentence, right? In copywriting, each sentence is guiding the person through a decision experience with the end result in getting them to take some sort of action, right? Whatever that action or that response might actually be, okay? So that's copywriting. What about the direction of content writing, okay? Content writing, on the other hand, if you think about content writing like a blog post or a video or something like that, it's very multi-directional, okay? It's kind of like a conversation between friends, right? When you're having a conversation with your friend, it's not like, hey, I'm going to sell you on something by the end of this conversation. It's all just about having that conversation, right? There's like tangents and there's like sidebars. It's like, oh, OMG, hey, did I tell you about this? Did I tell you about this? Oh, by the way, this, right? So you're like, when you're having a conversation with a friend, you're going maybe on on like side tangents, you're following the rabbit trails. That's what content is all about, right? Think of a blog post. What it does, it creates conversation, it creates engagement, and it even might link to multiple other sources. It might link to other locations. It might link to other call to actions. It might link to other blog posts. It might link to videos, all of that kind of stuff. That is what we're talking about when we talk about the direction of content writing, okay? Now, the third kind of pillar that we want to talk about, the third type of difference between copywriting and content writing, is really all about the goal and the difference between the goal of copywriting and content writing, okay? So the goal of copywriting is to increase conversion rates and to be able to increase revenue. So copywriting is a lot more kind of transactional, is kind of what you can imagine it as, right? A copywriter wants more action taken and measures what happens with those actions with the bottom line, okay? Versus a content writer, the goal is to really increase engagement and to increase brand loyalty, okay? So content writers, what they want is they want more likes, they want more shares, they want more comments. What they're doing is they're optimizing for goodwill and value to the business or to the audience, not so much about the bottom line, all right? So those are three main types of differences that we wanted to talk about in terms of copywriting and content writing. Now, the question that you might have when you learn about the difference between content writing and copywriting is like, okay, well, which one do I want to do, right? Which one do I need to have inside of my business? Do I need copywriting or do I need content writing? Well, here's the truth. Every single business needs both, and there is overlap. So example, you might be creating a YouTube video or a blog post, right, which is going to be content, but then within that YouTube video or within that podcast or within that blog post, you might have a call to action inside of that content. And so you'd be mixing both content writing and copywriting together, okay? And so the content writing is what allows you to be able to add value and create goodwill within the marketplace. And then the more goodwill, the more brand loyalty that you have within the marketplace, the easier it is for you to be able to sell, which is what you use copywriting for. And so content writing makes the copywriter's job so much easier, okay? So you got to have both, but they're kind of just two different purposes that you use both of them for. If you just go ahead and just create content and content and content and content writing, and you have all this brand loyalty, but you never actually use copywriting to get that brand and that audience and that community to take some sort of action, then you never have anything in the bottom line. And then conversely, if you only use copywriting over and over and over again, and you don't actually do a little bit of content writing, provide a little bit of value, build that brand loyalty, then what's going to happen is you're going to burn out that audience because you're just all about getting them to take action, when in reality, you needed a little bit of more goodwill in there. And so it's all about having a hybrid of the two, and you want to understand the difference between all of them. And then the final note I want to go ahead and touch on here when it comes to content writing and copywriting is that both of them are absolutely skills. And so when we talk about the results formula, right, let's say, for example, you want to be able to get better at copywriting. You want to become a copywriter. Well, guess what? You're going to have to not only manifest, you're going to not only have to become that version of yourself that is a copywriter, right? So when I go ahead and say, hey, you know what? In this season, in this quarter, in the next 3 months, I want to get better at copywriting. I might even create a becoming journal. I might go ahead and read that becoming journal over and over and over again of, hey, becoming Yasin, the copywriter, right? And let's say, for example, I want to become a content writer. I want to become very good at building goodwill and building an audience, right? And building a community. Well, I might create a becoming journal and remind myself and look at it 2 times a day of becoming Yasin, the version of myself that is the amazing audience builder, that is the amazing content writer. And then all of that identity work comes with that skill work as well. And remember, skill equals knowledge times reps. And so both copywriting and content writing are skills that you can 100% learn and you can 100% get better at, and also create the identity and the version of yourself that is better at those things. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we wanted to go ahead and talk about inside of this training section when we talk about the ad copy foundations. Now you have a very, very, very good and in-depth understanding of what copywriting is, what copy is not, why copywriting is important, and then we also squashed some of those limiting beliefs around whether or not you need to be a good writer, XYZ, and then talked about the differences between different confusing terms like copywriting or content writing and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is this training section around ad copy and the foundations of ad copy. Make sure that if you have any questions about anything that we've discussed so far, if you want to share some insights, you want to share some wins, make sure you go ahead and ask or make a post inside of the student community. Please, please, please. We are absolutely encouraging students more and more to go ahead and share their insights and their wins inside of the student community. Because remember, it is a community. It's not just a guru on the mountain. Okay. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Ad Copy Foundations training section. I hope you got some amazing value out of this. And with that being said, I will catch you inside of the next training section. All right. Welcome back to the ad copy training. Inside of this training section, we're going to go ahead and talk about resources to learn copywriting. Okay. So here's the thing that I want you to know from the very beginning of this training section is that even though our goal in the 100K Mastermind is to over deliver as much as possible, similarly in certification, we talked about the RWA over delivery promise. Well, we have the same thing here in the 100K Mastermind, right? We have the 100K over delivery promise, right? Our goal here in the 100K Mastermind is that the value that you get from the 100K Mastermind will always far exceed the investment that you ever make, right? The amount of value that you thought you would get versus the amount of value that you actually got, right? Even though we do have this over delivery promise here in the Mastermind, the truth is that even with that, it is impossible for you to just go through one training on what copywriting is or how to do copywriting and then all of a sudden, just like that, have the skill of copy. It just doesn't work that way, right? The skill of copywriting is going to be something that is acquired over a much longer time horizon. It's not just something that you get from a single training, right? It involves knowledge, it involves reps, and it involves even more knowledge. In fact, what's going to happen is that as you go through the training that we're going to provide for you on copywriting, what's going to happen is that you're going to go out there and you're going to learn a little, aka like this training, right? And then you're going to go out there and write a bunch of copy, right? AKA get a bunch of reps in place. And then what's going to happen? You're going to inevitably run into issues. Maybe the copy that you write, the first 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drafts that you write don't convert very well, right? You're going to run into those types of issues. And then once you run into those issues, because you are actually doing the dang work, what's going to do is that's going to force you to go out there and learn even more on how to actually go ahead and overcome those issues. And so a lot of times I like to call it skill equals reps times knowledge, because yes, you get a little bit of knowledge in the beginning, but unfortunately beginners and newbies, when they're starting, they undervalue the rep side of things. They think that they need to accumulate knowledge in order to actually get good at the thing, when in reality, it's more about the action and the reps. And only once you have enough reps can you then go ahead and diagnose what knowledge you need in order to actually fix that deficit. Okay, so that's what's going to happen as you go through your journey of learning copywriting, is that yes, we're providing you the initial foundational knowledge to get going, but then you're going to need more and more resources to learn copywriting. Because here's the thing, learning copywriting is very similar to learning how to actually play an instrument. What do we mean by this? Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried to learn an instrument, right? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Either way, this example is going to make sense for you, okay? Is that when someone is first learning how to be able to play an instrument, right? Think of like a guitar or a piano or something like that. The teacher doesn't say, okay, hey, you know what? All right, here's the guitar, here's the piano, here's the violin. Go out and play an amazing song. It doesn't work that way, right? It's just not how it works. Instead, the teacher says, okay, hey, cool. So here's an example. Here's Jingle Bells. Here's like Jimi Hendrix or something like that. And then what do? You go ahead and copy what already exists. Now, this is confusing because not to be kind of confused with copy, we're not talking about copy, we're talking about the word duplicate, right? So you go out and duplicate what is already existing, okay? So not to be confused with the word copywriting over here, okay? So you don't go copy what already exists, you duplicate what already exists, okay? And so when you are learning to find your voice, literally for anything, what happens is that you first ethically steal someone else's work for a little bit, right? You go ahead and duplicate somebody somebody else's work, obviously with your own voice, with your own tone, all that kind of stuff, right? For just a little bit, and you copy them exactly to really start to learn the patterns of what works best. And then guess what happens? When you do that over a long enough period of time, you start to get an idea of the patterns, and then you're able to go ahead and start to introduce your own voice and your own style and that kind of stuff into it, right? In fact, this is the way that school and education actually used to be. Back when school and education actually taught skills that were useful. What you would do is you would go out there and you would find someone who is already successful at the thing that you want to get good at, and then you would go ahead and do an apprenticeship, or you would go ahead and follow them around, and you would get reps and reps and reps and reps. And so now you understand why sometimes we like to say skill equals reps times knowledge, is because unfortunately in today's world, in the current school system, in the way that students are trained today, they think it's all about the knowledge, when in reality, the action is more important than the knowledge. They're both very important, right? But the action is what allows you to figure out what are the issues that you need to overcome and fill those deficits, so you can fill that with the knowledge. And so what you do is that back in the day, you used to do reps and reps and reps and reps until you started to see the patterns, aka pattern recognition, of the way that it should actually be done properly. And so in the same way, this is exactly the same way that you are able to learn copywriting. How do you get started? You find others who are actually really good at copywriting, and what you do is you model them, and you basically do reps and you do reps and you do reps. And in the beginning, you're going to suck, and eventually you're going to get better and better and better and better. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is in a upcoming training, we're going to show you how to be able to do this with the swipe file, so that way you can actually model your copywriting here off of existing players in the marketplace. But an even better way to learn copywriting is to really model and get inspiration from the masters, okay? And so that's what we talk about when we talk about an apprenticeship, right? In today's world, it's amazing because you can do an apprenticeship with literally anybody out there, because now we have so much access to information and access to those people who are really, 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 really good. And so that's what I want to introduce you to right now. I want to go ahead and introduce you to who the masters in copywriting are, and just a few of them, so that way you understand who to go out there and learn from, and who to go out there and really start to model. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about resources to learn copy. Okay, so again, it's going to be a requirement for you to go out there and read the books in order for you to actually get good at copy. There's no way that we're literally going to go out there and rewrite dozens and dozens and decades of resource material around the science and art of copywriting. However, again, I want you to remember, it's not only about reading the books, right? It's also going to be about the reps, right? You're going to write a bunch of bad copy first, and then you're going to go out there and you're going to have all these reference materials. You're going to have all of these kind of your textbooks of copywriting that once you run into an issue, you can learn and turn to the masters to see how they would overcome that, okay? So once you run into those issues, you're going to need more knowledge. And this is where the resources come into, okay? So some of the original teachers that I want to go ahead and introduce you to when it comes to copywriting are these three gentlemen right over here, okay? So there's David Ogilvy. David Ogilvy really is the godfather of the direct response and copywriting industry, okay? David Ogilvy has since passed away many years ago, but he has some amazing resources when it comes to direct response marketing and copywriting, okay? Next one on here is Gary Halbert, an amazing OG copywriter, amazing resources as well as Joe Sugarman. He's an amazing copywriting educator. Okay, now when it comes to resources on these specific topics, right? Some awesome resources for this. Number one, Advertising Secrets of the Written Word by Joe Sugarman. Amazing reference material, okay? Actually, inside of the guide of this training, as well as probably in the references down below this training section, we'll actually include for you a link in which you can go ahead and get access to the Advertising Secrets of the Written Word. And if that link ever expires, there's so many, this book is such a classic book that I'm sure if you Googled it in a very smart way, you could actually find a free PDF somewhere if you decided to do that. Not that we promote that or we encourage that, but I'm just letting you know kind of a side tip that one of the students told me. I don't know if it's legit or not. I'm just letting you know, okay? Another amazing reference material, and the reason why these two are highlighted is because they are absolutely critical requirements in terms of for you to understand what copywriting is all about. Another one is Copywriting Secrets by Jim Edwards. Really amazing reference material there. And then the Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Joe Sugarman. We've gone ahead and included the link for that. And then Ogilvy on Advertising by David Ogilvy. Amazing reference material when it comes to direct response and copywriting. And then the Boron Letters by Gary Halbert. This is really interesting, okay? The Boron Letters are actually a series of letters that Gary Halbert wrote when he was in jail, and he's writing those letters for his son. And the reason why that's interesting is because Gary Halbert actually got so good at copywriting, he got so good at influence, and he got so good at persuasion. And this is why sometimes these skills are kind of dangerous, right? That's why there almost has to be a warning with them, is because you can use these skills for good or you could use them for bad. And so unfortunately, Gary got so good at this that he actually ended up putting himself in jail because he got into the wrong stuff using his copywriting secrets. Okay, so then obviously after that, he went ahead and he served his time. He became a good person after that, and he went through the entire thing. But the interesting thing about this is that Gary Halbert really thought that he was gonna die in jail, and so as a result, he said, you know what? I want to go ahead and pass on this skill set of how to create amazing copy, how to write amazing copy to my son. And so he started writing these letters in jail that are not only amazing works of copy themselves, right? So the actual letters are basically him using copywriting to write the letters, but then in the letters themselves is amazing nuggets when it comes to understanding the skill of copywriting. So that's why it's very interesting, Gary Halbert's Boron Letters. And so these links over here are actually links that after Gary Halbert passed away, his sons actually went ahead and compiled those letters and then made them available for free so that other people could learn from them as well. Okay, so amazing reference material here and some amazing teachers when it comes to copywriting. There are some other amazing legends inside of the space of copywriting. We don't want to overwhelm you right now, but the more deeper you get into the space of copywriting, you're going to start to learn that there are the legends, there's the giants, there's those who have been in this industry for a long time. There are fundamentals, there are principles, there are tactics, there are techniques. There's all of this. It's a very rich world, which is the world of copywriting, and it's a very powerful world. And so once you start to expose yourself more and more to it, you're going to start to have your eyes open to this entire world of copywriting. And that's exactly how over your entire career, you're going to start to become better and better and better at copywriting in general. Okay, so now those are the resources when it comes to copywriting. But here's a big warning I want to go ahead and expose you to right now. And this is not going to be a warning that is a surprise to you, but I want you to understand this, is that do the dang work, no excuses, okay? Because here's the thing, even though we've given you these resources, you know what we've seen as educators over and over and over again? Guess how many students are actually going to do the dang work to now go through those resources and learn copy? Unfortunately, very few. I'm sorry to say it, but unfortunately, the vast majority of people out there decide that they want to be beginners, but then they want to go and become limbic lalus and just wear the failure uniform. Unfortunately, that's why the winners are always a minority. But then guess how many of those students are actually going to complain that their copy is not converting or that their copy is not attracting the right prospects to their business? Guess what? Many, many more than are actually doing the work. And so if you want to be a student who's actually successful with this, then it's very simple. Do the dang work, right? Because that's exactly what winners do. This is how winners are winners. The reason why they are winners, the reason why they have the winning mindset is because they actually do the dang work. And so really we are having this big push, not only within the mastermind, but within the entire program and within the entire organization as a whole, is to really encourage and promote and cultivate that winner's mindset, that A-player mindset within the entire organization. The coaches, the students, everyone, we are promoting this mindset of, hey, be a winner, have a winner's mindset. And really being a winner is literally just about, honestly, sometimes I say it's about being an adult, because it's about saying you're going to do something and then actually doing it. And unfortunately, the number of people out in the world that are like actually adults, that are actually winners, who can literally say, I'm going to do this, and then they actually do it, unfortunately is very, very little. But the reason why that's beautiful is because if you are actually one of those few people who learns the skill of how to actually do the things that you say you're going to do, then it's really, really low-hanging fruit, because the world is your oyster. And literally you can dominate and have anything you want in the entire world as long as you actually keep the promises that you make to yourself. Okay, so this is why winners get the results that they are looking for. And so we would encourage you to go out there and be a winner when it comes to actually learning and going through the resources of how to learn copywriting, because I'm telling you, copywriting is going to be one of those things that's going to absolutely change your life the more you learn more about it. Okay, so that is the resources to learn copywriting. If you have any questions about this section or anything that was discussed in terms of this, if you are interested in learning more resources when it comes to copywriting, if you want to share your insights, or maybe as you're going through some of these resource materials, you're learning some amazing things you want to share with the rest of the community. Remember, it's the community that has the power. Make sure you go into the community to make a post and share it with the rest of us as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the training section when it comes to resources to learn copywriting. Inside of the next couple training sections, we're going to actually get into more of the tactics of how to actually write, create, and assemble amazing copy. With that being said, I will catch you inside of the next training section. All right. Let's keep this party rocking and rolling when it comes to ad copy. Inside of this training section, we're going to go ahead and talk about step number 1, which is the marketplace swipe file when it comes to ad copy. So the very first step to creating good copywriting is to actually assemble your marketplace swipe file when it comes to ad copy. Now, of course, you're going to start to see a theme here, and we've talked about this many times in the past so far, and the importance of your swipe file, the market research, and really compiling and putting more and more into it over time. Okay, now here is a quote from David Ogilvy, the godfather of direct response marketing and copywriting. He says, "Advertisers who ignore research are as dangerous as generals who ignore the signs of the enemy." Okay, and so the first question you might have is, why is the very first step of copywriting to be able to start putting your marketplace swipe file together? And the reason why it is the very first step is because it's actually incorrect to say that you are going to write copy. Okay, what does that mean? Because haven't we been saying, hey, I'm going to write copy? Didn't we say that copywriting, like it's literally in the name? What are you talking about, Coach Yassine? So here's the thing. When you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to sit down and hey, you know what, it's time to write some copy. It's time to do some copywriting. It suggests that you're going to all of a sudden sit down on a blank screen and somehow have this creative orgasm from which amazing copy is going to be written by you. Okay, that is what happens when you say, hey, you know what, it's time to write some copy. That is the kind of image that comes to your mind. However, that is not correct. In fact, copywriting is more about assembling more than it is about writing, okay? Said differently, copywriting is not about writing copy, it's about assembling copy. I want you to understand this very clearly. It's going to be a nugget that's going to serve you for a very long time, okay? Great copy is not written, it is assembled. Assembled from where? From other pieces of copy in your swipe file. Aha! Are you starting to understand now why the first step is the marketplace swipe file? In fact, here's the thing. You don't really need much creativity when it comes to writing copy. You only really need to recycle, reorganize ideas, themes, phrases, and words from other pieces of copy. All you are literally doing is compiling, recycling, and reorganizing, okay? And so one of the amazing quotes that I love when it comes to this idea of really going out there and just being better at rearrangement, and this is the quote, is that there is a secret that every professional artist knows that amateurs do not, is that being original is overrated. The most creative minds in the world are not especially creative, they are only better at rearrangement. Aha, are you starting to see how it works? Okay. And the reason why this is great news is because that means that literally anyone can write copy, and that you can literally write copy about anything, any product, any offer, any service, any even aspect of life, as long as you have a swipe file, you have something that you're basing it off of, so that way it becomes effortless. Now, do you have to have a swipe file when you write copy? Of course not, right? As you get better and better at this, as you start to understand more about the fundamentals and the foundations and the principles when it comes to copywriting, you'll be able to go ahead and understand how to be able to create copy yourself, of course, and that's not off the table. But what we're talking about is that more often than not, what what you are going to be doing is you are going to be recycling and reorganizing ideas, themes, words, and phrases. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to, hey, I'm going to go ahead and write copy. I'm going to go out there and I'm actually going to assemble copy. That is the way that we want you to actually start to think about this and understand this. Now, when we say assembling copy, does that mean that you're just going to literally copy and paste other people's copy and then make it a part of yours? Here's the thing. I want to clarify that, okay? What we're talking about is really talking about modeling what is called the big idea. We're talking about modeling the big idea, right? So how do you actually assemble copy, right? Do you just rearrange other people's copy from your swipe file? So what you're going to do here is that you're actually going to be modeling the big idea. What does that mean? It means that many times when it comes to copy, you're not duplicating the exact words from your swipe file, but you're more so what you're replicating is the big idea. You're extracting the big idea from the marketplace swipe file. Okay, now what is the big idea? The big idea is kind of like the overall theme, the overall concept, the overall model, the overall frame, the overall narrative, the overall angle of a piece of writing or maybe a video or an image. It's kind of like the angle. And that's kind of the hardest part, right? The creativity aspect comes from, hey, what is the angle? What is the theme that I want to have with this writing? Now, I know it sounds abstract and vague, but I promise you, once you understand it, it's going to be very clear for you on how you're actually going to be modeling this based off of other people's copy. In fact, let's go ahead and go over an example so you can understand this a little bit better, okay? So we have an example copy on here, and what I want you to do is I'm going to go ahead and read through this copy, and then I want you to go ahead and start to think of what is the theme, what is the big idea here when it comes to this piece of copy. And so let's go ahead and go through that together right now. So it says, an unhealthy body will not release weight long term. This is the missing link of all the weight and diet programs out there and why none of them work long term. The more we try to force the body to get the weight off through calorie restriction, fad diets, and eliminating food groups and counting points, the more unhealthy, stressed, and toxic the body becomes and the harder it will be to release the weight. This is why it feels like a constant battle to keep the weight off and keep it off, right? This is why with every year that passes, it becomes so much more difficult to get the weight off or stop it from coming on, right? However, just like how our skin cells can heal in a paper cut in a couple of days, every cell in our body also has that same healing ability. And once the body is healthy, it can turn the metabolism back on and tap back into that inflammatory fat at a quick pace. And it can do it regardless of age and regardless of gender. All we got to do is send the right signals. And this can be done with a healthy, sustainable lifestyle change. No pills, no shakes, no powders, no fad diets, or intense exercise. Okay, now I'm not going to read the rest of this, but you kind of get the gist of what we're talking about here, right? And so again, my question is, what's the big idea here? Well, it's simple. This entire piece of copy is really focusing on, hey, being healthy is the key to weight loss, right? And so what we're seeing here is, and this is where I want you to understand this, right? Even though we have a lot of different lines and a lot of different ideas here, the overall idea, the overall theme, the overall concept, the overall narrative of this piece of copy, the angle that it's focusing on is that, yes, it's focusing on weight loss, but is it focusing on weight loss by doing calorie counting? No, it's focusing on weight loss by saying, hey, you got to get healthy. And then all of the different lines, all of the pieces of copy that are written underneath that are underneath that big idea. Are you starting to see how this works, right? So once you read this copy and once you start to get an inspiration of what the big idea is, do you see how easily you could piggyback off of this theme, right? Because the hardest part, the part that takes the most amount of creativity is always coming up with the angle, the theme, the big idea, okay? And so when you're using your swipe file, you're going to really be able to go out there and model other people's copy. It becomes super easy to do that because you can go ahead and pull out the angles, the themes, the big ideas, even from, here's a catcher to this, even from industries and products that are completely unrelated to what it is that you are selling. When you have a really robust swipe file that you've been accumulating and putting more and more stuff into, you might come across like a t-shirt ad and you might say, you know what, that is an amazing big idea. That is an amazing angle. And so you might say, hey, you know what, I'm going to model that big idea for selling t-shirts, but I'm going to use it to go ahead and sell my coaching program. I'm going to use it to be able to make some amazing ad copy. And all you're doing is you're modeling the theme, the concept, you're modeling the frame, the narrative, the angle is what it is that you are modeling. Yeah, you might take some sentences here and there from it, but that's not the major thing, right? That's not the main thing that you're focusing on. What you're focusing on is the big idea. Let's go ahead and look at another example so you can really cement this understanding in your mind and exactly how it works. Okay, so here's one piece of copy that we wrote a while back for Online Fit Pro, which is one of our previous companies. Okay, and so this one on here, so it says, imagine two personal trainers racing to survive. Trainer 1 sells in-person sessions priced at $60 per hour, and then Trainer 2 sells online coaching transformations priced at $3,157. Which trainer do you think is going to win the competition? Which trainer do you think is going to have more freedom? Which trainer do you think is going to be able to take a family vacation? Obviously, trainer number 2. And if you're trainer number 1 right now, and you might be feeling like you have no freedom, you got no freedom to travel, take time off, spend time with family, well, guess what? There's a huge opportunity for you to be able to switch to online coaching. And then obviously the entire rest of the copy goes ahead and supports that entire evidence and that big idea. Okay, so again, what is the big idea behind this piece of copy here? It's basically personal trainer A versus personal trainer B. Do you see the angle? Do you see the narrative? Do you see the big idea, right? That's kind of the theme of the copy, and then the rest of the supporting evidence underneath that copy, right? And so what's going to happen here is that once you see this, do you see how you could take inspiration from this? Let's say, for example, your niche was like helping busy moms, right? Do you see how you could literally take this entire piece of copy and you could rewrite it around the theme of like, hey, busy mom A versus busy mom B. And then you could go on to explain how one of those moms is barely surviving while the other one is thriving. But here's the thing, both of them are busy, right? So I'm just giving a hypothetical example, but again, this is how you can take different big ideas, different narratives, different themes, different angles, and you might even be able to take maybe certain words, different frames, right? You might even be able to go ahead and take maybe a sentence or two here and there, but that's not the point. The point is not to go out there and literally plagiarize other people. That's not what we're talking about. That is unethical, and anybody who does that is an absolutely terrible human being, right? Plagiarizing and stealing from people and saying that that is mine because you literally took the exact same thing, no good, no bueno, right? But what we're talking about here is modeling off of something that you think might already be working and you getting inspiration from a creativity perspective, right? So it's like, okay, imagine two busy moms racing to survive, right? Mom number 1, Mom number 2, Which mom do you think is going to win the competition, right? Obviously mom number 2, right? And if you're mom number 1 right now and you think that you don't have pain point, right? And so you're going ahead and taking your 4 Ps and you're infusing it with the inspiration that you are getting from your marketplace swipe file. Are you seeing how powerful this actually is? Do you see how much of a game changer this actually is, right? Because for you to come up with this exact frame, right? So let's say, for example, you had a blank sheet of paper in front of you and you're like, okay, time to have a creative orgasm, trying to get really creative, right? How difficult would it be for you to try and come up with the frame, with the narrative, with the big idea like this? It's very, very, very difficult, right? But if you have something that you are starting off of, then it is actually much, much, much easier. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of the swipe file when it comes to copywriting. It literally makes it effortless to write copy because all you're doing is you're recycling and reorganizing ideas, themes, words, and phrases of other copy that is already out there. And the beautiful thing about this is that if you have, let's say, for example, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of copy that you're modeling and they all kind of talk about the same topic, then it's very easy for you to have a lot of inspiration. And literally all you're doing is you're just kind of modeling and then reorganizing the different ideas out there. And guess what? You're not plagiarizing because of the fact that you are adding your own twist to it and making it specific to your offer, your niche, your people, and all of that kind of stuff. And so when you understand this, it's literally impossible not to be able to write copy because all you got to do is just model other people's copy so easily, okay? And then also on top of that, the amount of tools that are out there in order to help you actually find other pieces of copy to model is so many. You can literally use the Facebook ads library, you can use the YouTube library, you can literally just go to Google and type in best ads of all time, right? You can literally go to swipefile.com or swiped.co and you can even get inspiration. I remember I once wrote an ad copy, and I got inspiration from David Ogilvy's ad that he actually wrote for Rolls-Royce back in the 1960s. Imagine that. And the reason why I had that inspiration was because I went ahead and searched best ads of all time on Google, and I got a different angle, a different inspiration, and that was the catalyst that allowed me to be able to have the idea. The big idea was what I was modeling in order to come up with the ad copy for our offer, okay? And so literally it is unlimited in terms of where and how you can go ahead and get swipe file for inspiration, okay? And so if needed, we can go ahead and create tech tutorials on how to be able to use these as well. But again, it's very straightforward. If you want to go ahead and put on your winner's mindset, then you can absolutely be resourceful. But again, also don't be afraid to ask. Like, if we're here for you, we want to support you as well. I think sometimes when we talk about the failure uniform and limbic lallus and, be a winner and that kind of stuff, some students get put off by, not wanting to ask questions because they're afraid. But hey, don't be afraid, right? As long as you've done the due diligence to actually go out there and think of being resourceful yourself and you're still stuck, please make sure you go ahead and ask us as well. But at the end of the day, it's very simple. You're just finding other people's copy and you're pulling out the big idea and you're getting inspiration to use it in order to write your own copy. That is how the best copywriters actually do it. It's all just about recycling and reorganizing ideas, themes, words, and phrases from other copy that already exists out there. Very valuable, very important, and I hope you understand why this is step number one of actually going out there and creating and assembling and writing your copy, is really having your marketplace swipe file as the foundation. Okay, now, if you have any questions about anything that we've discussed so far, if you had any insight, you want to share something, please make sure you go ahead and drop a post inside of the student community. We would love to hear from you as you're going through this entire journey, so please make sure that you do let us know if you have any questions. But with that being said, we're going ahead and getting more and more tactical as we get through this training. I will catch you inside of the next training section. All right. Welcome back to the party. Step number 2, assembling your copy. So once you've successfully started to first put together your marketplace swipe file, then what's going to happen is that the next step is to actually get to work on assembling your copy. In fact, what's going to end up happening is that you're probably going to spend if not the same amount of time, if not more time, putting your swipe file together for inspiration before you even actually start assembling the copy. So you might put together you might spend 40 or 60% of your time actually just getting organized. And this is where I think a lot of people, especially beginners and newbies who are just getting started out, don't understand, is that setting yourself up for success is actually the hardest part of success. It's the unsexy part that people don't want to do in order to get organized, because once you're actually organized, once everything is nice and organized for you to actually do the thinking time, then the actual thinking time itself is actually not that long. A lot of the work more so has to do with the pre-work to get everything set up, because then once you got that inspiration flowing, it's very easy for you to actually go ahead and start putting your copy together, okay? And the reason for that being is because once you have a few good, solid examples of big ideas, some inspiration that you want to have your copy based off of, it actually makes the entire writing process so much easier and so much smoother for you to be able to go through. Now, this is also approximately the time that newbies and beginners who are just getting started out with copywriting and copy really start to have their brain go on fire, because now we're starting to get into the tactics, we're starting to get into the action. And once you get to that part where you're starting to do action, you're starting to do things that you haven't done before, it's very common for the brain to all of a sudden start giving you a lot of those limiting beliefs, those identity statements, those fears, those insecurities. And so before we actually get into the tactics and the step-by-step process of how to actually assemble and write your copy, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're actually going to go ahead and squash any limiting beliefs that might be coming up about this process. Because again, this is the part where all of those fears, emotions, distractions, procrastination start to actually come up, okay? And unfortunately, this is a very big hang up for many newbies and beginners. And this is a lot of times where some newbies and beginners, instead of going around and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to become a winner, I'm going to have the action mindset, I'm going to have action regardless of feelings or emotions mindset. Unfortunately, a lot of newbies end up going the other way and end up wearing the failure uniform form and becoming a limbic lallu. And the reason why that is the case is because they end up majoring in the minors. They end up thinking that things are important, that they aren't actually important, and they simply cannot get out of their emotions. They simply cannot get their emotions in check, and they end up freaking out. And so here's the thing, okay, is that we want every single student to become a winner. And you know what winners do? Winners actually commit to action regardless of their feelings, okay? Because the thing about human psychology and the human brain and mindset is that whenever you're starting something new, right? Whenever you're starting anything new, what's going to happen is that your limbic mind, okay, we've talked about limbicness versus consciousness in the past, right? Your limbic mind is going to want to stop you. Now, you might think that that's kind of seems weird. Like, why would my limbic mind want to stop me from me doing something that's actually going to benefit me, that's going to get me closer to where it is that I want to go? The reason why is because your limbic mind does not care about you thriving or achieving your goals. Your limbic mind wants you to stay where you are right now, because guess what? You're alive right now. And that's what your limbic mind is programmed to do. It's designed to keep you alive. And the best way to stay alive is to just keep on doing what you have been doing, because if you try something new, well, guess what? That new thing might actually end up killing you. And so our brains were designed to keep us safe and to help us survive, not to thrive. And we've talked about this in the past, right? Human beings have been on Earth for more than 200,000 years. And guess what? We've had the exact same brains, limbicness and consciousness and all of the psychology that humans have for over 200,000 years. But guess what? 200,000 years ago, humans weren't worried about trying to worry about their personal development and their enlightenment and have all these goals, because 200,000 years ago, humans were just working on surviving. And so our brains were magnificent at that back in the day. But guess what? Now we live in our cushioned, air-conditioned boxes, and so it's not so much about survival now. We're worried about trying to thrive, and now in order to thrive, we have to actually override our default programming, because again, your brain wants you to be safe, okay? It's going to send you signals of negative, dark thoughts whenever you're trying to do something new, okay? The roller coaster of thoughts and emotions is always going on. The question is whether or not you actually choose to ride that roller coaster of thoughts and emotions, or whether you choose to observe that roller coaster of thoughts and emotions. If you go into becoming a limbic lallu who wears a failure uniform, well, guess what? You're riding that roller coaster of thoughts and emotions. And now all of a sudden you're lost in your thoughts, you're lost in your emotions, and now you're unable to take the action that is necessary in order for you to actually thrive. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that people see successful people and they assume that, hey, you know what? Successful people don't feel anxiety or the stress or the frustration that I am feeling, right? They shouldn't be able to feel it. They couldn't feel it, because if they felt that anxiety and that stress and that frustration, well, they wouldn't do the action. The reason why I am unable to do the action is because I'm feeling anxious and stressed and that frustration and these emotions and this distraction. But here's the thing. Even all successful people feel that. The only difference between those who are limbic lallus and those who are the winners is that the winners do not let the feelings and the emotions stop them from taking the action that they committed themselves to. They actually do the thing that they said they were going to do, right? They get the dang work done regardless of how they feel about the work. Why? Because it is what is required. Winners do what is required for success, period, regardless of how they feel about it. So many students, they keep on asking the question of, hey, I feel so bad, like something must be wrong because of this bad feeling that I'm getting. I'm so nervous. I'm so anxious. I'm so uncertain. This is not good. Like, how do I stop feeling this way? Here's the answer to that. You don't stop feeling that way, because growth feels that way. But the thing is that winners and successful people and A players have just understood that and gotten used to that feeling and are able to still push through it. Now, when they say got used to it, doesn't mean that they got used to it and they don't feel it no more. They still feel it, but they've developed the skill, the calluses, in order to still push through. They've developed the skill to not let it stop them, okay? And so I'm telling you right now, as you go through this process of writing copy and doing copywriting and learning copywriting, okay, and starting to put that together, you're going to feel uncertain. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel stressed. You're going to feel frustrated. You're going to feel horrible. And guess what? It's completely normal. There is nothing wrong with these emotions that you are feeling. They are to be expected, okay? Negative thoughts and feelings are not the problems. They are normal because of the fact that we are human beings and we have the limbic mind, and it is a part of the human condition, okay? You don't need to do anything in order to make them go away, okay? They will go away on their own as long as you remember that they are not important, that they are unimportant. And guess what? The more action you do, the better you get. And the better you get, the less you're going to have those feelings, because now you're actually good at the dang thing. And so what you got to understand is that winners and losers feel no different. They feel the same, okay? They feel the exact same emotions. The difference is that winners behave differently when they feel badly. The winners, which is what you are training yourself to become, you are training yourself to become an A player, okay? The winners, they see those feelings as normal and they do not let it stop them. Versus those who are limbic lallus, who wear the failure uniform, say, oh, you know what? I don't feel good with this, and so therefore that means that I should stop. 90% of success is just about doing what it is that you said you were going to do, both to yourself and to others. If you tell your accountability partner or your coach or your spouse that I'm going to do this, well, guess what? The winners and the A players actually get it done regardless of how they feel about it, okay? And so even if it is hard, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it is scary, you do it anyways because it is who you are. You are a winner. You are a A player. You will do what is required in order to succeed. And so the question at the end of the day is yours. And remember, we're squashing those limiting beliefs right now, even before we get to the tactical of the copywriting, because I cannot tell you as an educator for doing this for years and years and years and years, we have seen that the number one thing that stops beginners is not the tactics, it's not the knowledge, it's their inability to actually execute on the action because of the fact that they end up getting lost in their thoughts and in their feelings, okay? So the question is yours. Are you willing to feel uncomfortable? Are you willing to put up with those thoughts and those feelings of insecurity and fear and doubt and pain? Are you willing to be uncomfortable now so you can be comfortable later? Or do you want to do it the other way around? And so this is what it's going to take in order for you to actually get your copy done and your copywriting done. You're going to have to stick with it. It's going to be uncomfortable. But again, do it afraid a few times, do it messy, do it bad. You're going to write a bunch of bad copy. And then you're going to get the reps in and you're going to get better and you're going to get better and you're going to get better, okay? We believe in you. We know you can do it. Your partners believe in you, your accountability partners, your community. We're all here to help you succeed. But at the end of the day, nobody can do the dang work except yourself, okay? So this is what I wanted to go ahead and talk about before we actually even get into the tactics, is to go ahead and squash those limiting beliefs ahead of time so that way you can fix the mindset as you are getting into this. Deal? Beautiful? You with us? Awesome. So with that being said, now let's go ahead and move on and actually talk about the parts of copy. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do right now is I'm going to go ahead and break down for you what are the different parts of copy. Now, different authors and different experts, right, depending on how deep you want to get on this, copywriting could be broken down in many different ways. But just to make it simple, we're going to go ahead and break this down into 3 distinct parts, okay? So part number 1 is going to be headline, lead, hook, or mini ad, okay? That's kind of part 1. All of these 4 terms kind of mean the same thing, okay? There are slight differences, but for the most part, they all mean the same thing. This is part 1, okay? Part 2 is the body copy, and then part 3 is the call to action, okay? So here's just one example of how to be able to think about copy, okay? Which is part 1, part 2, part 3. This is an example of how you can think about copy, and it is useful to think about it that way. So let's go ahead and talk about part number 1. Is the headline, the lead, the hook, or the mini ad, right? All again, same kind of concept that we're talking about, different terms, but same concept, okay? What is that? It's literally the most important part of the copy. It's literally like the first sentence or even the first few sentences of the ad copy. And the reason why it's so important is because on average, 5 times as many people read the headline of the copy than the actual body copy, right? The actual chunk of the copy. People are going to read the headline. People judge a book by its cover and they say, hey, is this interesting for me or not? Okay. And that's a quote by David Ogilvy. Remember, if you remember who David Ogilvy is, we talked about this, you should know who the legends in the copywriting space are. He's the godfather of the direct response marketing game. Okay, so the headline is what captures the person and gets them to read the rest of the body copy. And so it's fact, the actual headline, the lead is what you call it. Okay, so don't get confused. The lead of a headline is different than the lead like a prospect who gives you their name, email address, and phone number. Okay, same word, but just means different things depending on the topic that you're talking about here. Okay, so there's actually entire books that are written on this concept of great lead, a great headline, a great way to start copy. In fact, this is one of those reference materials that we highly recommend that you go ahead and pick up. It's called Great Leads by Michael Masterson and John Ford. Amazing book on how to actually have amazing headlines, leads, hooks, and mini ads. Because remember, it's so important. 5 times as many people are going to judge it based off of the lead. And so you want to have the lead be able to sell the rest of the copy. Okay. Part number 2 is the body copy. This is where the main idea, the big idea is fleshed out. And then this is really where each line is purposefully crafted to sell the next line. And then when writing the copy, you want to make sure that no line is going to waste, okay? Especially in the body copy, because you want to make sure that you are holding the attention of the person who is the reader, the listener, XYZ, okay? And then part number 3 is the call to action towards the end. This is where you're kind of getting to the point where you're going to now go ahead and get that reader, that viewer, that listener to take a specific action, and it has to be as specific as possible. And you can also use a PS there, okay? And you're going to see some examples of that as we go along here. So let's go ahead and break this down in some actual examples. Okay, so again, the red is going to be over here, headline, lead, hook, mini ad, and then the yellow here is going to be body copy, and then the blue is going to be the actual call to action. Okay, so here's an example. You'll see on here that the red is the hook, right? Free 21-day challenge for successful men who have succeeded in their career but have struggled to dominate other areas in their life. Okay, so boom, that right there is the headline. That's the lead. Now, I'm not saying that's an amazing lead. I'm not saying that's an amazing headline. I'm not saying that that's an amazing hook, but that is an example of a hook, an example of a lead, an example of a headline in a body copy, okay? And then after that, we then have the body copy, okay? So the body copy you're going to see here is kind of the chunk of the copy, and every single line, remember, is designed to be able to sell the next line. That's the whole goal, right? All you're doing in copywriting is it's very, very linear. You're making sure that every single line, every single word is selling the next word and the next line, okay? And then finally, at the end of that, that is where we have the call to action, which is like, okay, cool. Now that they've consumed the headline, the mini ad, the hook, right at the beginning, then they've consumed the body copy, right? Now they're convinced, like, okay, cool. I'm convinced. And then boom, you get into the call to action, which is the specific action that you want the reader, the listener, whoever is going through that piece of copy to actually go ahead and take the action on. Okay, so that is an example. Again, you can go ahead and pause. You can also go ahead and look at this inside of the guide. Now, again, this is just an example. We're not saying that this is the best copy that's ever written. In fact, when I look at this, I'm like, it's kind of mediocre copy. It's not the best copy writing that has been done on here, but hey, it's an example that we wanted to go ahead and show you. Okay, so now that you understand the parts of copy, what we're now going to go ahead and do is we're now going to go ahead and jump into a mini training that's going to actually go ahead and walk you through step by step on how to actually assemble your copy. And we're going to go ahead and do a screen share kind of side by side and show you how to be able to do this tactically, so that way you can go out there and assemble your copy, and you can understand how to do this and the fundamental principles and how to do this for every single time over and over and over again. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and cut over to that mini training now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this mini training where we're going to walk you through the step-by-step process on how to assemble your ad copy. Okay, and this is going to be a really, really nitty-gritty breakdown of how to find your ad copy swipe file, how to put it all together, how to use AI to actually refine it and really make it better, and then really just have the final product ready to go. So let's jump in without any further ado. So the first thing that we want to go ahead and do is we actually want to go ahead and find 3 to 5 different pieces of swipe file copy. Okay, now this is going to be key because if you don't have at least 3 pieces, what'll tend to end up happening is that you'll have only one source to actually pull from. And that's where it actually turns into plagiarism because you don't have enough variations. Okay, so that's why we want to pull three different variations of ad copy where you really liked the big idea. Okay. And that is something that you want to model off of. So for this example, you can see here that for the PMP, which is the Pinnacle Man project, we went ahead and compiled our ad copy swipe file. So we found one from Garrett J. White. So we found a few pieces of copy there. As you can see, we have 3 pieces of copy here, and we've separated it out. Then we have Kinobody, where we found 2 pieces of copy that we were like, okay, this is really the big idea that we really liked. And then we found John Madsen, where we found 2 pieces of copy, as you can see, copy 1, copy 2, that we're going to be pulling ideas from. Okay, so we did the groundwork. This is where you can go into the Facebook ads library and you can actually find the ad copy that they are running currently. So you can see, okay, this is the big idea and this is what I want to mimic or use as inspiration. Okay, so once you have finished with step 1, what you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to head over to step number 2 and you're going to open up your 4P research, okay? Because this is going to allow you to actually pull stuff that you've already compiled, okay? Because these are going to be the core main pain points that you have and paradise points that you'll be able to further pull from to make your copy more compelling and make your copy more robust, okay? So as you can see here for the PMP, we have the people, okay? We have the pain, we have the paradise, and we have the process outlined here. So we have all of our notes, we have our hypotheses, we have our swipe files in there. So we can always go in here and take a look and see what the process is going to be as we're going to go ahead and create that copy. So we have this pain dump of service level pain, experience pain, emotional dump, emotional pain, and we did some pain research using AI. So we have all of these resources in here that we can consistently pull from. And as you can see here in the paradise area, we already have a lot of these points that we can actually utilize in the copy as well. Okay, so now once you've done step 1, which is find 3 to 5 different pieces of swipe file copy, then you've done step 2, which is you've opened up your 4P research, so you have all the golden nuggets. Then you're going to move on to step 3, where you're going to open up a brand new document. Okay, this is going to be a brand new canvas, whether you do it on a notepad, you do it on a Google Doc, you do it on whatever source or writing source that you're going to use, you want to open up a blank document. Now, if you're doing ClickUp, we have a section that we called PMP ad copy, and then we have the ad copy sub page that we have created, so you can do that as well. Remember, what tool you use does not matter. It could be electronic, it could be physical, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you want a blank sheet of paper where you can actually write down your thoughts, because this is how winners think, this is how winners organize, this is how they study, and this is how they process, okay? Because if you think about all of this in your head, it's going to be a whole bunch of jumbled up mess where now you have a document where you can actually write out this entire process, okay? Now, with that being said, we're going to move on to step number 4, which is we're going to write, model, and assemble while looking at your swipe files. Okay, so as you're looking at your swipe files, you're looking at your examples, start pulling ideas, phrases, words, sentences, examples, and frames that you would like to use for your specific offer. Okay, now as you're going through this, you really want to pull the main idea. Okay, sometimes the main idea, I like to write this down, because what is the main idea that we are trying to get across? Okay, the main idea that I would say that we are trying to get across is that men are living a life of mediocrity and their health is struggling. So it's time to do something different. Okay. Now that is the main idea that I am trying to convey. Okay. We want to have one main idea of the power of one, the rule of one, and it'll allow you to actually get a lot more across, because what you're doing is you're condensing everything down to just one statement. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is I like to pull ad copy side by side. So I'm going to have the ad copy here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the PMP ad copy swipe file. Okay. Whoops. This is the ad copy swipe file. No, this is the Paradise dump right here. Let's go ahead and bring this one, which is the ad copy swipe file. And we're just going to start from the top. Okay. So we've got this piece right here. We've got the open document right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through this. So I'm going to expand this a little bit over the instructions right here. Is I'm going to look through this And I'm going to start right at the top with Garrett J. White. Okay. And what you really want to do is you want to pull things that actually like pull you from this. Okay. So brother, when it comes to the game of life, you got to stop sitting on the sideline. It's okay. It doesn't really pull at me. Here's the reality. Nothing changes if we don't. I think that's a very powerful statement. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it over here. So what I'm really doing is I'm just kind of creating a dump right now. And then I'll actually create the narrative as I go along. Okay. 10 years, hit the button below. So I think I've kind of pulled everything that I wanted to pull from the Garrett White thing. Let me go ahead and go to the second piece of copy. Hey, you talk about lifestyle. Too many of us think that the house, car, and vacation. Turns out that's not the best way to do it. The relationship, intimacy, and fire in your marriage. That's the one thing that has changed the game in most every area of my life. Okay, so I like this because I like this frame, right? Like we've found that doing X isn't the best way to go, but we found that doing Y is the best way to go. So I'm kind of finding this frame that I'm going to come back and edit. I kind of like this, right? So what I will do is instead of copying this, is I will actually go, we have found, right, that we have found that, I'm going to just go use this as an example, going to the gym, doing diets. Let's go doing diets. And let's see, like intermittent fasting. I found a non-traditional way to get more profit. We found, right, and okay, so we found that going to the gym, doing diets, and intermittent fasting is the approach that most men take, right? However, we've found, right? And we can actually change this. And so this is where like I'm editing right now, but I'm coming with the iterations. What most men do is they go to the gym, start diets, and try intermittent fasting to get the health they want. Okay, so I'm just using this as an example. ... Okay, try intermittent fasting. And then we could go, we found an easier approach, or we've found. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to actually change this later down the line. So I'll probably just put this into a parenthesis and I'm going to come back and actually change this through. Okay. So that's a really good point that I actually pulled something out of. And that's the one thing that's changed the game for me in every part of my life. Okay. No. Here's the deal. Oh, I really like this. As a man, we're meant for success in every area of your life. Okay. And the problem is, okay, I really like this frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it right over here because I know that I'm going to use this later. Okay. Now, sometimes you can space this out as you're going through it. I'm not plagiarizing. I'm copying this through and I'm actually going to tweak this as needed based on what it is that I want to communicate and what I want to share. Okay. So I found the way to truly reclaim freedom. Okay. So that's everything that I wanted to pull from the first swipe file. Okay. Then now let's go over to Keynote Body and see what we can pull from here. So there's two pieces of ad copy. Let's actually go through this. What does it take? Hours in the gym. See how it works. Nothing really resonates with me here. Now I'm actually going through this very quickly. So you guys are actually going to take the time to actually go through this. So how does a normal guy take me from being overweight and lonely and struggling? Okay, no, nothing really resonates with me on here. Because again, I'm actually going to be looking through my paradise dump. Okay, so I'm taking a look at the problem that the pain that the people are in, right? So pain, suffering, mediocrity of the body. You weren't put on this earth to be mediocre. Okay, surface, overweight, not happy. Experience, tailored suits. Okay, dysfunctional failing marriage, disconnected relationship with kids. Okay, so this is what's going on with like surface level. They feel like garbage, but this is what's going on, right? Like not getting laid, not getting paid. So I'm just using this as an example. The experience is They can't take their shirt off, drinking their emotions away. This is emotionally how they're feeling, emotions, depressed, low self-esteem. So the copy that I pulled with the Kino body is around more like fitnessy. So I don't really want to utilize that, right? So I want to use something that's a little bit more powerful. So let's go over to John Matson and see if we can pull some examples from there. Okay. And so let's see. Okay. Oh, I like this. Most guys blame age, time, but deep down they know it's a cop-out. I really like that because I'm going to be able to actually tweak that and actually approach it to the frame. This is like the frame of most men blame this, right? That's the blame for their excuse. So I like this. Okay. Okay, I really like this. Okay, so in the next 4 minutes, I'm going to share with you. You can even put this in your video ad copy, which can come a little bit later, right? In the next 30 seconds, I'll share with you X, Y, and Z. Okay, now let's look at the other one. Oh, right here. Settling. Right here. Settling for a mediocre physique isn't what we do. I really like this frame. So I'm going to put this frame right up here. So what I'm doing, I'm just kind of formulating my thoughts around this as I'm kind of pulling stuff from the copy. All right. But the reality is there's two types of guys on the internet who's trying to build a side hustle, and then they invest in elite business and people they want to be example and proof. Inside, I sure I would create the most ridiculous transformation you've ever seen. Okay. So I feel that we've pulled a lot of stuff from the copy that we needed. Okay. Then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually pull up the 4P document that we have right here. And we're just going to start right at the top, right? It's like, okay, who are we trying to work with? Okay. We're trying to work with men 27 to 50, making $50,000 a year, career professional, business owner, 9 to 5, but side hustle, 9 to 5 stuck to accomplish more, men who are ambitious, chasing financial wealth, in a serious relationship, married. Okay. So we know the type of person that we are going for. So I'm going to start formulating my copy inside of here. So this is a people swipe file, right? And let's see, like the patterns that we were noticing. Okay. Authority frame. Let's see the patterns that we're noticing from these people. Okay. Pain, what changed? Okay, cool. So now I'm getting a better understanding of as I kind of go through this. So now what I'm going to do is going back to over here, we're going to start just writing, modeling, and assembling. We're just going to like start putting sentences together, and we're just going to get into the nitty gritty and the weeds of things and try to formulate it. So really what we're trying to do is as you're doing step number 4, you're kind of doing step number 6, right? So what you're doing is as you're compiling, you're pulling ideas, phrases, words, and you're going through this entire process, right? So if I go back into here, I like to start my ad copy with calling the people that I want to actually talk to. So I can take a look, see which ad copy talks to like different types of people. Okay. Okay. So we can take a look at this. Let's look at Garrett J. White. Okay. So a lot of these copies don't call out to the ideal audience. Okay. So I could come up with, formulate something like this, right? And I would say something along the lines of men who have succeeded in their career, but are struggling with their health, right? So now I'm just formulating stuff, okay? So I'm going to put a ... I'm going to come back to this, okay? And so I'm going to say something along the lines of men have succeeded in their career but are struggling with their health. Can I be honest with you? Okay, so I'm adding some transition words in here. Like settling for a mediocre physique isn't what we do, okay? So I want to change this a little bit. So settling for a mediocre physique doesn't resonate kind of with my language. So I'm going to settling for low energy, performance, and bad health isn't what we do. It's not in our DNA. Right? And so let's see. So that's, I would formulate it that way, right? As I'm kind of going through. And it's not in our DNA. And I really like this. Hey, here's the reality. And so I can change this to here's the truth. Nothing changes until we change. Right? What most men do is they go to the gym, start diets, and try intermittent fasting to get the health they want. Okay, that they want. Let's actually just add that in there, that they want. And so we can take a look at other resources that we have. Okay. I actually like this frame right here. So I'm going to take this frame, okay, and I'm actually going to bring it up here. It's not in our DNA. Nothing changes until we do, right? So now I want to bring a positive light. Here's the truth. Nothing changes until we do. As a man, you were meant for success in every part of your life. Okay, so I really like this. So now I'm going to condense it down into health, right? And wealth. Oops. Let's actually change this. Wealth. Let's go relationships. Relationships. And then we can actually change this to purpose. Okay. So this is a little bit wordy right here. I can actually change this later down the line if I wanted to, right? So I can change this to maybe, like you can tweak this around, but I think this is a little too wordy. It takes away from what we're trying to accomplish right here. So I'll probably take this out. And if I wanted to add anything later down the line to this, I can. But notice how I'm like using the formats that already exist, because the most successful ad copy is actually compiled. It's not created. Okay. As a man, you were meant for success in every part of your life. Okay. As a man, you are meant to succeed in every part of life. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that in there. That's a good thought process. I can actually leave that in there. Okay. And then health, wealth, relationships, purpose, and correction is something greater. And this is what I can actually add in here. Like, but most men struggle because they don't know where to start. Okay, that's good. What most men do is they go to the gym, start diets to get the health that they want. We found that what have we found, right? So this is where I'm going to start using my unique mechanism and start coming through this process right here. Like what is the real pattern, right? We found that the real reason, what is the real reason, right? We found that the real problem that is holding men back from reaching their true potential is society's current paradigm. Now, I know this is a long sentence. I'll get through this, right? And so, but this, right? I took the idea and I formulated this. Okay, so as a man, you'll succeed. Oh, right here. So we can actually take this. The problem is that the world today is screwing this up for too many men. The real problem, so now I can actually just condense this, right? Like, I really like the way that sentence is structured. The real problem is society's current paradigm which is holding too many men back today. Boom. See how I took that sentence and now I like molded it into what it is that I needed? Okay. Then I go over here, right? Most guys blame age, time, career, families, etc., etc. But deep down that they know it's an deep down they know it's an app, it's BS. All right, boom. And so as you can see, I'm kind of formulating throughout this process, and now I've got a really solid piece of copy here. So I can say men who have succeeded in their career but are struggling with their health. Can I be honest with you, right? So we can actually leave this. I would make this a little bit more stronger, right? Maybe you could have just like free guide for men who have succeeded in their career but are struggling with their health. Can I be honest with you? Settling for low energy performance and bad health isn't what we do. It's not in our DNA. And here's the truth. Oh, see that? And I'd leave it to hear the truth, right? Nothing changes until we change. As a man, you were meant for, oh, see that? You were meant to succeed in every part of your life. That's why we read it through. Health, wealth, relationships. I don't like the space here. I'm going to remove the space. But most men struggle because they don't know where to start. What most men do is they go to the gym, start diets, and try intermittent fasting to get the health that they want. So I gotta finish that. That's like it's incomplete, but it works. It works for a little bit, but they go back to living the same mediocre. They go back to the same lifestyle. So I'm just dumping this right now as it's a version 1.0 dump. Okay. So as we're going through this process, you're going to actually complete the ad copy. Okay. So you're going to look at like other different parts. You're going to go into pull more stuff from different ad copy, pull different call to actions as you're creating this entire process. Okay. So as you can remember from this training up here, you've got to have a headline, lead hook, mini ad. You have to have the body copy and you have to have a call to action. So right here, we kind of messed around with a little bit of the headline and the lead. Okay. We're actually working a lot on the body copy. And then the next thing left to do is the call to action. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to put all of that together. And as you can see, this is the example that we have for you that you can add to the top right there. So once you've actually completed step number 4, you can actually use AI to actually help you. Don't copy entire paragraphs. You can ask it to write a call to action for your free guide. You can give it a prompt. Hey, write a call to action for my free guide, or whatever it is that you are writing the ad copy for, whatever it is that you're offering. Okay. You can ask it to write a hook or a lead or a headline, whatever it may be. The goal is to use AI to brainstorm, and then you can pull specific nuggets and organize them in list and put it into your document. So again, do not copy and paste from AI. You actually want to be able to just take this, use it as an ideation machine, and then actually bring that over into your copy. Okay. It's not going to be the end all be all. So going into step number 6, as you kind of saw me going through this process, the first draft that you're going to write is just to get the ball rolling. Okay. The goal is to write bad copy. Okay. The goal is to write bad copy. There's just no other way around it. You're going to write bad copy. And then the real goal is to massage it. All right. You're going to go into step number 7 and you're going to start fixing stuff. Okay. Once you've extracted as much as you can from your swipe file. So I have not extracted as much as I wanted to in my swipe file. And for the sake of not making the training very long, we are going to keep it short, but you can look at how we've compiled the ad copy up here in this example that we've laid out for you. But what you want to do is you want to go back and you want to be able to fix the draft and then go in there and start tweaking and make sure that it actually flows. So I kind of showed you guys an example of that. Okay. And then the last thing that we want to do is we actually want to go ahead and go to the Hemingway app. So I'm going to pull this up right here for you guys so you guys can actually see. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the ad copy that we've actually written. Okay. So the final copy that we've actually written for this ad that I was giving you an example for, and we're going to put it into the Hemingway app. Okay. So I'm going to copy the entire ad copy. Okay. I'm going to copy the entire thing. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to delete this and I'm going to paste the ad copy in here. So what you can see, it says readability grade 3. This is good. Okay. We want the readability of the ad copy to be grade 3. Okay. Now, if you want to make this a little bit better, this is pretty good, right? At grade 3, we want to aim for grade 3. If you're anything above grade 3, you can actually start tweaking it. We've got some run-on sentences or sentences that are very hard to read. That's completely okay. But we've actually managed to aim for grade 3. But if you want to start changing some stuff, let's say that it says there's use of passive words, okay? Now we can remove this to see that, right? We can omit this. Be bold, okay? So it's asking us to be bold. Now, Hemingway app is not going to be the best for it's not going to be the best for copywriting. It's just there to ensure that you have a very good grade level. Okay, that's what we really use the Hemingway app for. We don't really use it for copy. As a man, this is passive language. Okay, you are. So we could change this. You are meant, right? So it's like, oh, use active language. It's fine, right? It's not a big deal. And so here it says the sentences are too hard to read. So you can break stuff down if you wanted to, but because we've actually accomplished what we wanted to accomplish with this, we are pretty good because we want to make sure that we aim for a 3rd grade reading level. Okay, so we've already put this in here. We've already updated it. We got the grade level to 3. If it's anything higher, then you want to go back into your ad copy and you want to actually make the necessary adjustments to your ad copy to make sure that you are able to bring this down to grade level 3. And you can use the Hemingway app to actually allow you to see, okay, what sentences are too big, what is not reading well. So you can take and look at the Hemingway app and pull the ad copy side by side and go, okay, what is it that I need to actually edit? So you can come over here and you can edit the Listen Brother section. You can edit the Thankfully section in just 21 days. You can edit this entire section and break it up even more, because if I wanted to change this, I could just go, if you're reading this, ... and you're getting that burning feeling in your heart and in your gut right now, that's exactly what you need. And then I can just bring this, right? And I can change that right there. And as you can see, it just broke the entire, it just actually made the sentence very easy to read. So you can actually edit this in here if you wanted to make things a little bit easier, if you wanted to break stuff down. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the entire step-by-step process on how to assemble your copy. We look forward to seeing your copy inside of the community and giving you feedback on it. But remember, this is going to be a skill set, okay? At the beginning, it's going to be a little bit challenging. It's going to require you to think, but as you get more reps in, this is going to become easier and easier and easier. And remember, final note that I want to leave you guys with, it all starts with the swipe copy. Most successful copy is actually assembled. It's not created. So really make sure that you are spending a lot of time in step 1 through step 4, really pulling as much as you can from your swipe files and then ideating on that so you can actually create the right copy for your asset, for your offer, whatever it is that you may be doing. So I hope you find that helpful. Now we're going to get back into the main training so you can keep on crushing it. So that was the step-by-step training on how to assemble your copy. Now back to the main training.
All right, welcome back from that mini training, or maybe not so mini training on assembling your copy. Again, it's just an example. It's kind of a reference point. It's kind of a prompt. It's kind of an idea of our process on how we do it and our thinking process of how we go about it. But again, remember, as you get more and more reps of doing it yourself, you're going to have your own process as you do this as well. Okay, now, after we've gone through the tactical of this, a common question that sometimes comes up is, hey, how do I know know if my ad copy is actually good? Okay, so when we talk about if your ad copy is actually good, well, in marketing terms, when we say that something is good in marketing, what that means is that it's converting, okay? It's converting to the objective that we want it to. So in the case of, let's say, for example, ad copy, if your ad copy is actually good, right? Let's say, for example, you're running, let's say, a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad or whatever, right? If your ad copy is good and the call to action is to go ahead and click on the link to go to your landing page, right? Because the landing page is where they're going to go in to put their name, email address, and phone number, right? If that is the call to action, then if your ad copy is good, then that means that you are getting a high percentage of people who actually read your ad copy to click on the link, okay? So the question is, how do we know if your ad copy is actually converting, right? That's kind of the marketing terms of it. The more we talk about it, the more we use these words, you're going to go ahead and get more and more familiar with them, okay? Is that when your ad copy is converting, and then in this case, for this ad copy, it's converting to getting people to your landing page. So how do we know if your ad copy is actually converting? Well, the truth is that you're never actually going to know without looking at the data. This is very important, okay? This is not just something that you can just look at. Unfortunately, a lot of students are like, hey, look at this ad copy. Like, is it going to convert? Truth is that most of the time you don't know if it's going to convert, but you can go ahead and get input from somebody else who's written a lot of copy to go ahead and kind of lean in on their experience. But even with their experience, you never know until you actually look at the data. I cannot tell you how many times we've written copy and I thought, hey, this is going to be really good, but then it actually flops. And then sometimes I'm like, this ad copy is like okay, but then it actually converts like wildly good. Okay, so how do we actually look at the data, right? What data specifically are we actually going to be looking at in order to know if the ad copy is converting or not? So what's going to happen is that once you actually get your marketing launched, we're actually going to be walking you through an entire dashboard that is called the tracking sheet dashboard. This is a dashboard that we have created over the last 5 years, and we've literally put in thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of investing in developing this dashboard for ourselves. It's basically a Google sheet, but it's literally like a programmed Google sheet. We've literally hired people over the years to build on it and build on it and build on it. And this is going to be a template that we provide for you that you're literally going to be able to copy and paste into your own business. We call it the business intelligence sheet. Okay. This is an example of what it looks like. And what's going to do is that on this sheet is going to be where you go ahead and track all of your numbers. You can see on here, you're able to track the numbers for the entire year. Okay, that's the amazing thing about this, is that once you actually hit this plus button over here, it actually expands and shows you all of the days within the month of January, February, March, April, May, all the way to the end of the year. And you can actually put in the data on a daily basis, and it's going to go ahead and compute what the averages are for the different metrics, right? So you're putting in your ad spend, your impressions, your clicks, your link clicks, your paid leads. All of that is what you're going to be able to go ahead and put in here, and it's going to go ahead and let you know what your metrics are. Now, don't get overwhelmed by this. We're going to have a completely separate training that's going to walk you through this step by step later on inside of the program. But the biggest thing you want to know is that we're going to walk you through not only how to be able to put in and use the tracking sheet, but also we're going to show you where to find those numbers on the ad platforms, okay, whether that be Facebook or YouTube. And we're going to show you how to be able to find those numbers inside of your CRM, inside of the client kit, so that way you can actually make informed decisions to know if your ad copy is actually converting or not. Remember, that is the proper language that you want to learn how to be able to use when it comes to copywriting, which is my ad copy converting or not? Okay. And so this is not going to mean anything to you right now, right? Because right now you don't know what the KPIs, the key performance indicators, and the metrics are that you're looking for ad copy. But later on, once we show you how to use this, you're going to be looking at whether or not your click-through rate link click is actually good or not. And you can see on here, we're aiming for at least a 1.5% link click percentage, also known as CTR link, okay? And so we're gonna walk you through that KPI and that metric and exactly what that metric means, how that metric is calculated, and how to be able to find the data to be able to come up with that metric, so that way the sheet can actually let you know if your ad copy is converting or not. So again, don't worry about it. We're gonna talk much more about it when we talk about the metrics and when it comes to direct response advertising. You're gonna learn all about CTRs and CPLs and landing page conversions and all of that kind of stuff. So that way you can actually optimize your ad copy for the highest converting ad copy that you can actually make. But again, I just wanted to go ahead and mention that so that way you understand, hey, how do I know if my ad copy is actually good? Well, guess what? It's going to come down to the numbers. It's going to come down to the metrics. Yes, you can get input from somebody else who has written copy before. Yes, you can get input from the community and the coaches, but ultimately the end all be all is going to come down to what does the actual marketplace say? Because remember, we've talked about this before. It does not matter what you think. It's all about what the marketplace thinks. And so when you actually put the ad out there is when you're exposing that ad copy to thousands of different eyeballs, so that way you can see what the market has to say about the ad copy that you've gone ahead and assembled. Okay, so that is the last point I wanted to go ahead and mention inside of this training section. And so that's what we talk about when we talk about step number 2, assembling your copy. If you have any questions about this, if you have any insights, if you have any comments, if you have any wins, if you have any struggles, if you have any frustrations, please make sure you go ahead and make a post inside of the student community. Remember, community is where it's at. The more you actually go ahead and play this like a multiplayer game rather than a one-player game, right? Because right now, if you're just kind of doing this on your own, you're playing the game like a single-player game. You're trying to go ahead and dominate life individually, right, as yourself. But what you want to do is you want to go ahead and share with the community so that way you can be on a multiplayer game and play this game of business with other people, right? You're creating community around you, you're networking, your net worth is your network, right? And so that's why it's so important for you to go out there and share how you're feeling, your frustrations, maybe questions that you have with the community, because the more you share, the more that other people are going to see your name and your contributions. They're going to contribute, they're going to tag you, and then all of a sudden you are now building a healthy relationship. And it's so much more fun to play this game as a multiplayer game rather than a single player game. So I hope that makes sense. That is step number 2 for assembling your copy. And the next step, we're going to now go ahead and talk about some other nuances when it comes to ad copy. With that being said, I will catch you inside of the next training section. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the ad copy copywriting training. Inside of this training section, we're going to go ahead and talk about community ad copy, and specifically ad copy when it comes to the community strategy. Okay, so although the other trainings inside, or the other training sections, I should say, inside of this training have all really talked about ad copy in general, what's going to happen is that inside of this specific training section, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and go over the nuances, the differences, and the details of what happens when you are creating ad copy specifically for the community strategy, right? So just as a refresher in terms of what we've been talking about when you're talking about running ads on the social media platforms, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be tailoring this entire strategy around giving away your free asset, right? So we've talked about spice messaging. You're going to go ahead and kick off and set up your community, creating your free valuable asset. Now it's all about giving away your free asset. And so what you want to understand is that all of your copy, right? Even when you're going out there and seeing the swipe files and other people's copywriting, right? They have other offers that they are doing. But because you're doing the community strategy, okay? Because you're doing the community strategy, what's happening is that your copy is primarily focused on giving away and selling your free asset. So that way, when we say selling, not selling for money, we're saying selling. So that way people are like, wow, this is amazing. Like I really, really, really want this thing. And that's what it is that you are presenting inside of your copy. Okay. So the ad that you're going to be writing is basically going to be all about selling the heck out of your free asset. Okay. Now, in order to help you with this, I want to go ahead and talk to you about some examples of free asset and community copy. Okay. We're going to go ahead and talk to you about some of the examples that you can also go ahead and get marinated in. So that way you understand kind of the gist of what it is that we're talking about here. But here's the thing, and this is a very, very, very big warning, okay? I'm going to go ahead and in just a second, we're going to go ahead and include and show you examples of old free asset ad copy that we put together years ago. And I want to make this very clear, is that this is for example purposes only. Any student who tries to look for the chance to be a remote control student who wants to be spoon-fed and follow blindly and be a limbic lalu and who wears the failure uniform and who tries to copy these examples that we're about to go ahead and do, and they literally say, you know what, I'm going to rip it off word for word. No comment. No comment. double face palm, okay? And so I want to make this extremely clear right now, yes, in all caps, okay? Are you listening? The goal of us providing these examples is not for you to use them. In fact, if you use them, you're probably not going to get good results. Why? Because there's nothing special about the examples that we are about to show you. And unfortunately, some students who put on the failure uniform and decide to be limbic lallus, right? They don't want to be winners. They say, you know what? I'm going to be a limbic lallu. I'm not going to be a winner here. Because the thing is, winners don't do that. Limbic lallus do that, who expect to be spoon-fed and be remote control students, okay? Is that when we mention examples of trainings, what happens is that for some reason, some limbic lallus think, you know what? This is some gospel from God that is some magical, mystical kind of thing somehow, okay? And now, one question that is valid though, okay, now this is not a limbic lallu question, this is just a normal question in general, which is valid, which is, hey, can't I just copy what it is that you guys have already made, right? And so the thing is that, yes, you can use ours as one of your examples. Remember, the core key steps when it comes to creating and writing copy is that you're going to need at least 3 to 5 other examples, okay? So you can maybe model a big idea that you got from what it is that we have, okay? But the reason why you cannot use our copy verbatim, word for word, is because we have seen it over and over and over and over again, is that when you duplicate, when you copy our copy exactly the same way, it just doesn't work well. For some reason, the ad platforms are going to flag you and they're going to give you higher CPM. CPM means cost per impression. Basically, you're going to be paying more for ads because of the fact that it's not resonating well because probably the ad has already been used before, okay? Now, does that mean that you always have to come up with ad copy from scratch? No, right? We've already talked about this, is that if there's one theme that you notice that you're like, you know what, I really like that, then sure, hey, assemble it, recycle it, tweak it for the existing copy that you might have, no problem. But the thing is, you're not starting from scratch, but you're also not taking somebody else's existing ad copy and then just saying, you know what, I'm going to copy it verbatim. You want to have some marketplace swipe files, you want to go through your resources. You want to go through, hey, remember those resources we talked about in terms of learning ad copy? Well, you don't want to just put together ad copy, post it in the student community and say, hey guys, I'm done. And then it's so messed up because of the fact that you didn't take the time to actually create good ad copy and look at the reference material and the resources and really model it based off of somebody else. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to help you because you haven't taken the time to actually help yourself, okay? So again, be wary of copying other people's copy exactly the same way because you're not going to get good results. Yes, you can take parts here and there, but remember, we've already talked about that. You want to be pulling from your swipe file and you want to be able to go ahead and really understand the big idea and allow that to be your foundation and then use the fundamental principles that you're learning from the resources, right? From the books that you're learning about copywriting to then go ahead and craft what your copy is going to look like. And so our examples do not count as your swipe file, okay? They're literally examples from years ago. You want to make sure that you have examples that are much more up to date based off of what it is that you're putting. Our examples do not count as your swipe files. Now, I know I put this in here and that's only there because of the fact that we want to kind of, put that hesitation there for you to literally copy. But if there's a big idea, if there's some parts of our copy that you like, sure. But at the end of the day, some of the best copy is going to come from the legends. It's going to come from the resources. It's going to come from what's actually in the marketplace right now. But again, you can pull here and there, but not verbatim from the copy that we are going to show you and the examples that we're going to show you. Okay. So with that warning and with all of that being said, let's go ahead and look at some different examples when it comes to ad copy specifically for free asset and community. Okay, so here is the can I be real with you example. Now, I'm not going to go in and actually read all of this copy on here. It's actually going to be inside of the guide for this training. Okay, so you can go ahead and use the guide underneath this training. You can go over to it and then the examples are going to be there for you to be able to look at. Okay, so can I be real with you? This was for a free 21-day challenge for men. You can see this is what the example looked like. I'm not going to read it again because it takes me forever to go ahead and read out loud. Here's a personal trainer 1 versus personal trainer 2 example, right? That's the big idea there. And then you're going to see that the call to action for this is actually a free guide. And so you'll see on here, it says, hey, it's easy, my friend. Like, what's the secret gourmet sauce? It's easy. Here is the free guide in which you can get from this link below or clicking on the image below, okay? So that is the big idea there. This one is, hey, do you want X without blank? This is more of a direct copy that has been written on here. So again, you can pull big ideas from this, but not verbatim, right? You want to obviously translate it for your offer. You want to translate it for what it is that you are doing. But again, this is a really good one for a guide, right? Download our free guide for, you're right, the specific group of people. Inside, you're going to learn this, this, and this, and this. And then here's the link for that, right? So again, you can model off of these, but these are just going to be one of the other examples that you're going to pull for your swipe file, okay? Here's a personal story with a call out example that is, again, for a guide. And so this is another one that we ran a while back, but again, big idea. You can understand the gist of it. You can look at it inside of the guide. I'm not going to read through all of it, but you get the idea. Personal training is a trap. This big idea that we got for this one was around taking what the audience believes to be like holy and then literally saying the opposite of it. So we were literally marketing to personal trainers, okay, in this example. And so we literally said personal training is a trap. So imagine if you're a personal trainer, you see an ad and you're like, personal training is a trap. You'd be like, huh? What? And so it's kind of like a contrarian reverse psychology kind of ad copy, big idea that was there. And again, this one, eventually the call to action goes into, you'll see like a lot of the call to actions can be similar. You can kind of rinse and repeat the call to actions. Once you have like 2 or 3 or 4 really good call to actions, a lot of times your biggest changes that you're going to make when it comes to ad copy are going to be more around like the headline, the lead, some changes a little bit on the body copy, but a lot of times the call to action, which is kind of like the last part of the ad copy, is pretty much a lot of times going to stay the same. But again, you're going to see on here, link to download the free guide right there. Okay, this one right here was, hey, time for a different approach, right? A healthy approach. This was a little bit of a different ad copy example. Again, they are located inside of the guide underneath this training, so you can go ahead and read through them. I would highly recommend that you read through them so that way you can kind of get a gist of what the ad copy examples are going to look like. Now, in order to actually go ahead and emphasize and beat the dead horse unicorn, because humans need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. Remember, are these examples that we've gone ahead and included for you, are they wholly mystical, special, or meant to be copied? Say it with me now. No. Okay, awesome. Because at the end of the day, remember, you are going to be a winner. You are absolutely training to be a winner. You are an A player, and I completely understand that you understand what it is that we're saying here. I have no doubt that you're going to absolutely crush it because you understand the point of these examples, and you can go out there and replicate what has worked without actually being somebody who's a remote control student who expects to be spoon-fed. Okay, so make sure that you are going ahead and making these as well as the other swipe file examples that you get specific to your market. Very, 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 very important. Okay, so with that being said, this is this training section when it comes to community ad copy. I just wanted to kind of just throw this in here to talk about some of the details and nuances when it comes to community ad copy specifically. And then of course, the rest of the training sections we've already talked about, those are all really about ad copy and copywriting in general and the general process of putting all of that together. Okay, so again, if you have any questions about this section or any section at all, please make sure you go ahead and post inside of the student community. Very important. We've already talked about the importance of developing those relationships and developing that community. So make sure that the more you post in the community, the better you're going to develop those relationships. And it's so absolutely critical and important. So with that being said, this is this training section, and I will catch you inside of the next training. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about action steps when it comes to community ad copy submission. And so what you're going to be doing here is you're going to go ahead and submit your ad copy into the community. So that way the community and the coaches and everyone, if you need feedback on them, you can go ahead and get that. So action step number 1 is going to go ahead and be all about completing all of the training sections in full. So remember, we have trainings and then there are training sections underneath the training. So you want to make sure you complete all of the training sections for that specific training. You're then going to go ahead and submit the ad copy work. Now, this is going to be a little bit different, okay, depending on when you're going through this training, because there used to be an option for doing comments underneath the training. And sometimes that might come back, sometimes it might not come back, okay? Unfortunately, the developers, they've been messing around with stuff. So if you don't see a comment box underneath this specific training, then you're just going to go back into the main student community and create a post over there. And the title of that post is going to be Community Ad Copy Submission, okay? And then what that's going to look like, you're pretty used to it by now, is that you're going to go ahead and have your submission. If you are struggling with something and you need some help, make sure you go ahead and ask the community for help on the first half. And then you're going to go ahead and have your ad copy there afterwards. Hey, this is the ad copy that I've assembled or written for my free asset. What I learned was da-da-da-da. If you don't have any questions, obviously you don't have to include this first part and you can just include the ad copy there. Now, if you're going to be submitting a link to maybe a document or something, which for this you might not need, but if you decide to do that, make sure that you are actually submitting that link as well. Okay. And the biggest thing on here, we've talked about this many times in the past, is that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so the more organized you are in your writing, the more organized you are in your talking, the more organized you are in your thinking, and vice versa. And so we would urge you, please make sure that you are organized in what you are asking from the community. And so that way you are making sure you are getting the help that you are looking for. Just some quick tips in terms of tech pro tips. Hyperlinks. Make sure that you are using hyperlinks. They are very, very helpful. If you are going to be sharing a Google document, make sure you go ahead and change the permission so that way other people can actually view your Google document. And then of course, just a couple quick reminders about how to be able to learn in a community, right? Number one, we talked about the difference between lazy asking versus empowered asking, right? Don't just say, hey, looking for your feedback. That's not helpful for you. It's not helpful for anybody else. You're not setting somebody else up to be able to help you, right? Make sure you're doing the work to help yourself and then getting it to what we call a 6-inch putt, making it easy for other people to actually go ahead and help you. After that, remember, this is a community, not gurus, right? So when you are asking, make sure you're not just asking coaches, but you're asking the community at large to actually help you as well. And then finally, if it is a two-way street. So if you ask one, make sure you are giving one. And so because you're going to be doing your submission, you are asking, right? Just because you're doing your submission, you're asking. And so what you want to do is you want to go in and give feedback to other people as well. Because if you're not getting feedback on your submissions, well, guess what? It probably means that you are not giving feedback to other people's submissions. And so when you give feedback to other people's submissions, they're going to feel reciprocity and indebted to go ahead and help you as well. So they're going to go ahead and give you some motivation. And so it's all about building those relationships. And it's not about just me, because guess what? You're going to struggle in your business and in life in general if you don't actually go ahead and lead with a give first approach. And so that's why rule number 3 is a two-way street. Ask one and then give one. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the action steps for this specific training. Go out there, get it done so that way you can rock and roll and get all of your ad copy done. We are excited and really looking forward to seeing it inside of the student community. You're going to absolutely crush it. I know you are. And so go there and be a winner, be an A player. And I can't wait to see your ad copy, and the rest of the coaches and community can't wait to see your ad copy as well.